You wanted the picks? You got the picks. The hottest picks in the world.
What's up, folks? Welcome back. 138 MMA here. And while everybody else is out there taking their vacations, leading into the new year, I'm out here grinding, putting in the work. I'm going to be bringing you over the next several days the Bellator versus RIZIN main card. And the reason why? I cover Bellator fights. I don't cover RIZIN fights. I cover Bellator fights. And the 5 main fights are Bellator versus RIZIN. So guess what? You're going to get those. I'm going to break down all 5 of those fights over the next several days leading up to that card on New Year's Eve that we're all going to enjoy. Now, in these breakdowns, I'm going to do them individually. They'll be in a playlist together. But I'm going to do them individually, similar to how I usually do my Dana White's Contender Series videos. So just be ready for that. In this matchup here that we're going to break down first, we have AJ McKee taking on Roberto de Souza. Now, for de Souza, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. For McKee, 4-1. As we know, that one loss is to Patricio Pitbull. As you see on the de Souza side, he does have a loss as well. It was a while back to Johnny Case. He then went on to beat Johnny Case in the rematch, so he did get that one back. So he is 5-0 in his last 5, as I've mentioned. In this real quick, I'm going to start by breaking down AJ McKee here. As you see, we have a long list of things for both fighters. I really dug down deep into this matchup because I think this is probably the most entertaining and most closely paired fight of the card. So I'm going to break that down. But before I do, I want to talk about the differences in the rules in this than we're used to. The Bellator guys, they're used to the standard unified rules that you see in the United States. They're used to the cage. I know Bellator uses a circular cage. UFC uses an octagon. Yeah, those things are different. But in this, the Bellator guys are going to be in a ring. Like a boxing-style ring. They're going to be in a ring. That is a lot different. Now, I know that you might not think so. You're still punching and kicking guys. You're still trying to strangle people. Whatever. It is very different. And the reason why is because you can get tangled up in these ropes a whole lot easier than you get tangled up in the cage. You can get cornered in the corner of a square much easier than you can in a circle. Or even an octagon. I know octagons technically have like corners, sort of. It's not like a square where you can get pinned in that corner and just teed off on. So for the Bellator fighters, they do have to adapt to this new structure that they're going to be in. Some of them maybe have been in rings in the past, no big deal. But it's different than what they're used to, so that is something to take note of. Whereas the RIZIN fighters, that is where they fight every time. So there is that. Now, another thing, the rule set is different. For these, they are going to be using RIZIN rules. Now, yes, the standard unified rules in the United States, there's that. RIZIN has those with a little bit more loosely set rules. So they allow soccer kicks, stomps, that 12-6 elbow, the dreaded elbow. They allow all those things. So you can kick your opponent in the head when they're down. You can do knees to the opponent's head when they're down. You can straight stomp the opponent's face when they're on the ground, which is super savage. I love it. So those things are going to be different for the Bellator fighters to adapt to. So take that into account when you're looking at these fights. Now, when you're looking at the fighters, would AJ McKee say be on the ground? He's not thinking, oh, I can kick this guy in the face right now, even though his knee's down. He's not thinking that initially. He's going to have to, oh, yeah, duh, I remember now. It's not something that's just natural to him because he's not used to it. For de Souza, that's going to be something that's natural to him because it's just what he does. So that's something I wanted to point out. I'm not going to bring that up in every single one of the videos, but since this is the first one I'm putting out this week, that's what I wanted to mention. So anyway, let's get into the full breakdown here of this fight. Now we have AJ McKee. He's very skilled everywhere. We see no glaring weaknesses in AJ McKee's game. Now that's a good thing for AJ McKee, but the interesting thing about that is when you are so well-rounded, that means someone who is an absolute expert and specialist in one particular area is typically going to be better in that one particular area. Now, Roberto de Souza, very high-level jiu-jitsu. His jiu-jitsu, it's clean. Watching these videos, these fights leading up to this, I really dug into it because I don't watch RIZIN regularly. I wish I could. I just don't. I don't have whatever app it's on anymore. I think it used to be on DAZN or whatever. I don't think it's on that anymore. I don't have it. I don't watch RIZIN regularly. But leading up to this, I watched pretty much every single fight I could find on de Souza, which was a lot of fights. So take that into account. I do know his jiu-jitsu is solid, okay? For McKee, though, very well-rounded, but he's very high level everywhere. Most people, when they're well-rounded, means they kind of just average everywhere. He's very high level everywhere, and that's the reason he's got to 19-1 in his career. His grappling, I'm going to cover that first because it's going to be the thing that matches up with these guys. Now, he does have some really smooth grappling. His transitions are quick and slick. He's very fast to attack the submission. AJ McKee, a lot of times it's chokes. Reason why? He's got them choking arms. He's got those slender forearms that slip right under your chin really easy. Whether he's going for a front choke, rear naked choke, something like that, he can lock these up quick because he can get those smaller, skinnier arms. Not that they're like small, like, oh, he's got wimpy arms. It's just because they're long and that mass is spread out over his arms. Other than, it's not the same as, say, like a Patricio Pitbull, who I'll be covering in a different video, where he has more stocky arms, where he's not able to slip those under your chin as easily because they're going to be a little meatier. But he does probably have more squeeze in those chokes. Anyway, the choking arms, that's an advantage for McKee that he uses well. We've seen it in a lot of his fights. He'll go for chokes while standing, while he's stuffing a takedown, on the ground. He mixes them in from everywhere. And in the event that McKee does end up on his back in this fight, which is a very possible thing, he's very active from his back. He can sweep from the back, use it to get back to his feet, which is where he probably should want to keep this fight. Or he can use it to take top position and maybe bring the offensive grappling to De Souza. He's also just active off his back, searching for submissions, things like that, which is if he needs to just buy some time to get to the end of the round, because every round starts on the feet, even in RIZIN. If he needs to do that, he can do that. He's not lost when it gets to the mat, but there's going to be a distinct advantage on the side of the De Souza, Roberto de Souza in this matchup for the grappling. So I want to point it out ahead of time that McKee is very good on the ground. I just don't think that he's going to be able to match up with quite the level of jiu-jitsu that Roberto de Souza has. So there's that. Before we cover his striking, I want to cover his wrestling. Now, he has good wrestling, solid takedowns. I think that's a horrible game plan for him. I don't think AJ McKee's going to go out there and start shooting takedowns. He does have the wrestling. I don't think he's going to use it here because Roberto de Souza, you don't want to take this guy down. He wants you to take him down. He'll let you take him down. You don't want that. So I'm going to point that out there. But the thing that AJ McKee has where it's a massive advantage in this matchup is his striking. The dude's a sniper at range. He has very accurate kicks. He doesn't whiff a lot of them into the air. These are, if they're not landing flush, they're hitting your guard. So they're hitting the arms. Maybe you're checking them or whatever. But these are accurate kicks. He's not just whiffing kicks. And the reason that's important, it's easy to take a guy down when he's on one foot. And if he just whiffs a kick and hits the air, it's easy to take him down. If he kicks you in the face, it's harder to take him down because he just kicked you in the face. So you have to gain your bearings and what have you. Maybe you just eat it and walk through it. Most people can't do that. AJ McKee, his straight punches are just, they've got some sting to them that you don't see from a guy that, when you look at him, he's not like a massively physically imposing looking fella. At 155, you're not thinking, oh man, this guy can hit harder than most 155ers. When you look at him compared to, say, a Patricio Pitbull, who, I mean, I know they fought at 145, but the point is, one of them looks like they hit harder. Now, don't get me wrong, Patricio Pitbull hits very hard. AJ McKee's got some sting to those straights that he throws. So, for McKee, his game plan is to use his movement, which he has he probably has the best movement in Bellator. The ability to keep the fight at his range. He'll be able to put those straights down range, hit De Souza before De Souza can really do a whole lot from there. Now, I know De Souza has a good jab. I'll cover that in a minute. But AJ McKee has really solid straights. The 1-2, he can mix up where he's going, whether it's to the body, to the face, whatever. He can mix these punches up, but it's solid. So that's where he's going to need to be. He's going to need to be at his range, using his movement in this matchup. And I do think that if he can stick with that, he's going to have some success there. One more thing that is really interesting to me in this particular matchup is the tie clinch. Now, McKee transitions very well into the tie clinch, and that's something that's a lot of times overlooked when you're looking at an AJ McKee fight or just AJ McKee in general. He'll go from using these straights, and as you're coming in and he's coming in, he seamlessly transitions to that tie clinch and gets his hands where they need to be and starts putting these knees in there, and his knees are solid. AJ McKee, his knees are underrated from that tie clinch, and I do think that could be a path to victory for him if he can use that to maybe stop a takedown and bring it to a tie clinch. Or, maybe if if he ends up getting up against the cage and De Souza's looking for a takedown, maybe turn it into a tie clinch, get some space, work the knees, make De Souza not want to come into that space that he needs to get the takedown. I think his best path is to stay at range and use his long-range strikes, but if AJ McKee has to get in close, that tie clinch is solid from him, and he is able to work those knees very well. The last thing I want to cover about McKee, if you've seen the fight with Ray Wood, AJ McKee has a chin. He ate a flying knee square to the face and just no-sold that thing. Shook it off like it was no big deal. That landed flush. And he ate quite a few shots in that fight. The Ray Wood fight was actually a pretty good fight earlier in his career, it was a while ago. But AJ McKee's got a chin on him, so that's, you don't have to worry about him getting knocked out here. His biggest threat is being submitted, so that's the point. Good on the feet, that's his best path to victory. AJ McKee, he wants to keep it on the feet. For De Souza, opposite goal. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very, 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 very high level, and he's a triangle specialist. He can set up a triangle so freaking fast. Watching these videos, I thought maybe it was recorded in like 1.5 speed or something at times, because this guy is quick. These triangles are like lightning, man. But here's the deal. He has to be in a position that the fight doesn't start to lock up this triangle. He needs to be on his back with McKee on top, or a mounted triangle, which he's also been known to do. Mounted triangle is no big deal for him. So he needs to be on the ground, basically. He's incredibly fast with those transitions once it does get to the ground. So if McKee makes a mistake and does shoot a takedown, which would be a horrible idea, if he does, Souza's quick. And I think that's going to be trouble for McKee if that does happen. Something else, there's zero worry from De Souza about being taken down. So that opens up his striking a little bit. Although his striking is not very good, it opens up the ability to throw recklessly and not care. Because if you get taken down, so what? He doesn't have to worry about being taken down. If he ends up on the bottom, a lot of jiu-jitsu specialists, we even see it with some high-level jiu-jitsu guys in the UFC, where if they end up on bottom, because everybody in the UFC is at least, or not everybody, but most people in the UFC are pretty good at staying on top and not just getting tossed around by a jiu-jitsu guy in seconds, you can usually at least win some minutes if you're not going to do anything reckless from the top. In De Souza's case, I don't think people can do that. I think his jiu-jitsu is such a high level that if you get on top of him, you should be worrying, because his jiu-jitsu is very fast. And he uses his ground and pound to set up these strikes from his back, from top position, doesn't matter. He'll be trying to get a triangle, and if you're not giving it to him, he's hitting you with these hammer fists, and then he'll switch to an arm bar. Oh, and then you're not giving him the arm bar. Okay, cool. He'll switch, take your back, and then he does these things very smooth. It's really, really impressive. He's had a lot of experience in just jiu-jitsu and grappling matches, so there is that. Anyway, I talked enough about his grappling. It's top-notch. If you don't believe me, go check some tape, but I think you're here because you wanted to hear my opinion on it, so that's why I'm telling you. On the other hand, his striking. Like I said, he's got a decent jab. He's got decent kicks, and I think it's because he doesn't care if he gets taken down. Because he'll throw these kicks out there like just whatever, and he will miss some. He's not as accurate as AJ McKee in his kicks. But they're okay because he can throw them out with reckless abandon, because if he misses the kick, what are you going to do? Take him down? Who cares? Yes, you can counter with some strikes, but I think he's more thinking that you're more likely to be taken down off of a missed kick. Let's put it that way. His jab's all right. It's not great. It's all right. But he's lacking in striking. His striking defense is terrible. It's not good. He's been hit a lot by fighters over in RIZIN that are just kind of like subpar strikers, maybe. Not all fighters in RIZIN are subpar strikers. That's not what I mean. But he's been hit by fighters that were just subpar strikers, and he doesn't react well to it. He kind of panics a little bit. He will desperately try to get the fight to the ground, rightfully so. That's where he has the most path to victory. But him being hit isn't really what he wants at all. So he wants to get this fight to the ground. He does not react well to it. I do believe that AJ McKee is able to stay at range. That is going to be important. Now, something else. He has solid takedowns for a jiu-jitsu guy. Like, most jiu-jitsu guys have terrible takedowns. Now, his are okay. The problem is sometimes he shoots for them naked. He will not set these up sometimes, and he'll just dive for your legs. Now, does he get the takedown? A lot of the times, yes. AJ McKee's going to be a harder guy to take down than a lot of the guys that De Souza's fought. I do think AJ McKee is the highest level opponent that Roberto de Souza's ever faced in any organization, let alone RIZIN. So I do think that it's going to be tough for him to get the takedown if he just shoots them in willy-nilly like that. But he does have good takedowns. And once he gets a hold of your leg, it's hard to get him off of that leg because even if you can stuff the takedown, he will give you top position to get the takedown. So he'll pull guard or he'll just wrap up your leg and drag you down. So he can get the fight to the ground using means that other guys are not willing to do because their jiu-jitsu isn't to that level. Now, here's the problem, or the benefit for De Souza. He's never been out of the second round. He's finished fights in the first, he's finished fights in the second, and his one loss, well, there you go. Here's the deal. He's never been out of the second round as far as I know. I think I watched every single one of his... I don't think I watched every single one of his fights. I think I watched at least 12 or 13 of his fights. And I never saw him go out of the second round. I don't think he does. I think all of his fights are KO, TKO, or submission. He's finished them like crazy. Now, a lot of these fights are finished with a triangle, which is great. He does have some KO, TKOs. A lot of times it's because of his jiu-jitsu that he sets these up, though. So it's not like he's not going out there doing wrestling style, just like pick you up, slam you down, and then just maul you. No, he's using his jiu-jitsu to put you in a position where you can't move, and then he's just pounding you out, getting the finish that way. So for this matchup here, let me kind of give you my pick now. Roberto de Souza is super high level in the jiu-jitsu, and I do think that's a path to victory for him if he can get the fight to the ground. But in this matchup, I think more opportunities are going to go to AJ McKee. I say that because of all the things I mentioned. The striking's going to be better. I think he's going to be hard to take down, especially for a guy that doesn't want to get hit by somebody like AJ McKee at range who has that great movement that he has. So for me, my pick is going to be AJ McKee. I do think he gets this one done. I do think this is a tough matchup for McKee, though, because if he does go to the ground, he will be outmatched. As good as his grappling is, I do think he's outmatched by Roberto de Souza on the ground. So for me, it's AJ McKee. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you're going to be watching this card. I don't know if I'm going to watch it live. I'll probably watch it the next day. I'll be hanging out with some friends on New Year's Eve. I'm sure you guys will be as well. Either way, if you are watching the card, great. I'm going to try not to catch any spoilers. I'll just watch it the next day, and that'll be great. Stay away from the social media, all that good stuff. But, yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Let me know what you're doing for New Year's Eve. This is going to be a great card. I'm really looking forward to this. And, hey, it gives us some more MMA to watch over this break where we have like a month before the UFC is back. So I will hopefully see you very soon because the next video should be coming out in a day or so, and we will see you there.